everybody. If everyone could try to find a seat. We've got coffee in the back. Plenty of seats up front. Hey, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room? Hey, that's good. We've got two good presenters this morning, and this is going to be our last event of the year, although we are going to have a party next week, and we don't know what that party's going to look like yet, but we're going to have a party next week. So, no presenters next week. Maybe Chad and Devin will get up and tell jokes or something like that. You know. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming out on a cold morning. We appreciate the support. Our first presenter is Ashok Kamal. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep.
Okay, great. He's with a company called Sivi, and he's got a real interesting company and an interesting background, and he's going to share that with us. So take it away.
Great. Thank you. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? My mic working? It's great to be here. Let's see. I'm not sure if my mic's working back there, Chad, but I'll speak loudly. And first of all, thanks for having me here, and thanks for inviting me the week not of the party, Sterling. I guess now I see the gap that I'm filling. Congratulations to all of you. I know this is the last week of 1 Million Cups in 2014, and from what I understand, this has become one of the best programs around the country. Kudos on doing that. It's a lot of hard work doing these programs for the organizers, for all the stakeholders. I'm coming today from Oklahoma City by way of New York City and Boston, where I grew up and spent the first 34 years of my life. I moved to Oklahoma City this past January to start my most recent company. But to give you a little bit more background on me as an entrepreneur, my first business, which I started when I was in college at BU in the late 90s, was a hip-hop record label called Raptivism Records. We were using hip-hop as a way to create awareness around important social issues like domestic violence, the prison system, environmental problems. We had a great run. In the late 90s to the mid-2000s in New York City, I traveled the world. We made over $1 million in sales. It was sort of my pre-MBA MBA. But then I actually went to business school, also in New York City, and started a business called Bennu, which is a green social media marketing company, still around today. We ran all of Waste Management, the biggest recycler in the world, online social media properties for their recycling programs. And we acquired a company called the Green Business Bureau, which today is the #1 online green business certification program targeting small and medium-sized businesses. And that's what Bennu does today, and I have a team of partners. We have a couple $1 million in investment and have built that company with a team sort of all around the country. During these experiences, and for me the common thread has always been using business as a way to improve the world socially and environmentally. As part of that personal mission as a social entrepreneur, I've gotten to meet some of the most incredible and ambitious entrepreneurs around the world. When I was in business school launching Bennu, I was invited to participate in the Rice University Business Plan Competition, which is the biggest competition for student entrepreneurs anywhere. It's $1 million payout over a 3-day competition. Sort of before there were accelerators and startup weekends, the RBPC was and still is to this day, as Forbes magazine calls it, the Super Bowl for entrepreneurs. So being a part of that community, I met another guy who had participated a few years before me. He built a startup that he sold to Adobe in 2011 for over $100 million. And we became friends. His name is Nick Seat. And last year we started talking about, well, why don't we start a business together? Okay, let's do that. What do we care about? It's entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs like us and other young entrepreneurs. So we set off to launch Sivi, which is a virtual incubator. At the time that we were thinking about starting Sivi, we got introduced to a guy who went to Rice as an undergrad, who's from Oklahoma, and started an accelerator there and in Dallas called VentureSpur. So Crately is his name, invited Nick and I to join the accelerator last summer, and we did. So now I moved to Oklahoma City from New York for the 3-month period. Nick had actually moved to New Mexico already. His wife is a researcher in the laboratory in Los Alamos. So both of us had kind of already converged to the middle of the country from Silicon Valley in his case, New York City in my case. And we were really excited by what is going on in terms of economic development and startup communities in the center of the country, sort of the rise of the rest, as Steve Blank calls it. And our goal with Sivi was to democratize entrepreneurship and create the opportunities for entrepreneurs anywhere that people are getting in programs like accelerators that are wonderful. I've been through one, but only accept 2 to 5% of the applicants. So they are not very inclusive. So that was our goal with Sivi, is recreate the benefits virtually that people get to enjoy when they're in an accelerator or an angel network, the sort of elite entrepreneurship programs that aren't available everywhere. So our thought with our first product is let's focus on education, and we built an online education platform called Sivi Academy. It's sort of like Khan Academy. There's about 150 lessons, sort of your entrepreneurship 101, if you will. They're video-based, they have quizzes, there's analytics, so you can keep track of your performance. It's a pretty cool product, and it's available today. Initially, we thought we were going to charge a nominal subscription fee, say 30, 50 bucks a month, and that was going to be the foundation of the business. It turns out we're idiots, and entrepreneurs, like you all, don't want to pay for online education. It's sort of like getting young kids to eat broccoli. They probably should do it, but they aren't going to do it. So then we sort of reevaluated and pivoted, and we said to ourselves, what is it that all entrepreneurs want? And we looked in the mirror, because again, we are entrepreneurs. And the answer to that question is money. So now we pivoted from doing online education, which is still available, and we just made it free, to helping entrepreneurs raise money. And of course, that's more like getting kids to eat ice cream as opposed to broccoli. So today, our latest product, which we actually just launched in private beta this week, is called Launch Leader, and it's a crowdfunding platform. We were inspired during this pivot transition by what we saw happening in the crowdfunding markets with platforms like Kickstarter that are transacting billions of dollars in new early stage financing. And although a lot of the people raising money on Indiegogo and Kickstarter and Rocket Hub are maybe not so much small business owners or technology entrepreneurs, the fact of the matter is that crowdfunding can work really well for all types of entrepreneurs. And that's why we believe that crowdfunding is democratizing early stage financing for entrepreneurs. And there's really a few reasons for that. One, it's available to entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. It's geography agnostic. Two, it gives you a forum to engage everyday people in the financing process. So you don't need to be an accredited investor like you do, for example, to be on AngelList on a syndicate. It can be, mom and dad who are teachers, like my parents, that are donating or loaning, say, a few $100s. So it's available to everyone, not just the sort of sophisticated investors in the community. And then finally, a great thing about crowdfunding is you get feedback from your users, from your supporters, so you can refine your idea in line with the lean startup methodology that's all about customer development and getting in front of your users as quickly as possible and building those MVPs. So as much as there's a lot of reason to be excited about crowdfunding, there are also some significant problems today, most notably the fact that up to 90% of campaigns fail on major crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. People just aren't ready. So they go on there, it's unforgiving, they're usually fill or kill. You either raise $15,000 or you get nothing. And as a result, the failure rate is tremendously high, and we think that's a market inefficiency. Another one of the major problems is there's a lack of transparency and accountability. So where is my money actually going once I make a donation? The majority of successfully funded projects on Kickstarter are late in their fulfillment. About 70% don't send the gadget that you think you were going to get on time or at all. So again, these are significant intrinsic problems with crowdfunding platforms in spite of their tremendous growth into a multi-billion-dollar and exponentially growing market for capital. So our solution was to create Launch Leader. What we do is focus strictly on entrepreneurs. So it's by entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs. It is donation-based, so we eliminate some of the complexity of, say, an equity crowdfunding platform, which tend to be fundraisers in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for companies that are already doing significant revenue. It's more like getting a loan from a local retail bank. So our focus on Launch Leader is small amounts of donation-based capital from your friends and family. So it's about aspiring entrepreneurs raising startup capital from their network to build their prototype or their MVP or their proof of concept, whatever you want to call it. The way that we set it up to facilitate this, sort of new structure is like a wedding registry wish list. So I'll show you how the profile page looks, but you choose whether you need a logo or a explainer video or wireframes, and then people can go on and specifically fund, say, 100% of your logo for $500 or half of your logo for $250. And then you can go to your uncle and say, hey, can you fund the other half of my logo? Then you get your logo funded and you upload a image of your logo on your profile, so you're keeping your community engaged. What we're doing is really taking that awkward, conversation around the Christmas dinner table of, I've got this crazy idea as an entrepreneur, and we're making it structured, we're making it professional, we're making it engaging, for you. So your family and your friends can support your entrepreneurial dreams and share in that excitement. So those are some of the unique features of Launch Leader. The other things we do are allow entrepreneurs to state what kind of help they're looking for, because of course, starting a business is not just about money, it's about your team. In fact, it's more about your team than the money. So if you're a developer looking for a designer, or you're a designer looking for a copywriter, or you're a marketer looking for a mentor, you state that in your profile, and people can search by what you're seeking. And we also run searches using our algorithm to match people to other resources and talent in their community or by a number of different variables. So that's how Launch Leader works and sort of what makes it different from other donation-based platforms like GoFundMe that is raising for everything from a kid going to summer camp to a pooch that broke its leg and needs to get an operation. It's sort of a chaotic mess. And then of course the Kickstarters of the world are they're at a higher level. So Launch Leader is really, you can think pre-Kickstarter, pre-accelerator, pre-angel round. That's where Launch Leader fits in. This is what it looks like as far as the interface. I'll also be happy to do a live demo during the Q&A if you guys want. But you can see on the left, the profile, there's multiple fun buttons. So again, that's that wedding registry format that we're patenting. And then you have a profile that talks about your idea. You have basic analytics, like you would on, say, a Kickstarter platform. And that's what it looks like. We're really excited because we just launched our private beta for Launch Leader yesterday. And we're waiving the commission. So we make 5% of each donation, just like GoFundMe or Kickstarter. And we're waiving that fee for our early adopters. So if you guys want to try Launch Leader, sign up at launchleader.com. We will get in touch with you and we'll help you set up your profile. So the next couple of weeks we'll be sort of doing our user testing as early adopters. We appreciate your patience, but everything is functional. It's easy. People can donate to you in just a couple clicks. It's connected with Facebook. We use Stripe. And we'd love your feedback. And that's really, as a community, the thing that I ask of you when you ask, what can we do to help? It's sign up and help us test. That's really the biggest thing right now. We also have a Facebook group for entrepreneurs. It's sort of a Alcoholics Anonymous for entrepreneurs. And sometimes it's, I think, even harder, being an entrepreneur, through my 15 years. And we have a group where people just, share stories. We cry together virtually. We share resources. It's a great space. So again, you can sign up there. The Facebook URL is on the board, or we'll send you an invite if you just sign up through our email list. So that's what we're doing today. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. But Launch Leader is the crowdfunding platform for entrepreneurs to get started. So I'll wrap up and be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Ashok, let's see the live demonstration. I'd like to see how everything you talked about worked here.
Okay, great. So this is our dev site right here. The actual beta will look slightly different, but this will give you an idea. This is the landing page. So you start off, well, I'll show you. You create a profile, basic process. It will ask you about your personal information, your interests. You state, again, what kind of help you're looking for, what you want to raise money for. Then once you create your profile, We have a discover page where people can search for you, based on your industry background, based on your school, based on your geography. And then once they discover your profile, we'll take a look at that. So here's an example for an entrepreneur, and you can see that the fundraising section, unlike a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, which just has one big fat button that says fund, is broken down into, in this case, a landing page that requires $99 to get funded, or a $500 budget for social media AdWords. And of course, one of the common ways to test an MVP, no matter what your idea is, put up a landing page, drive Facebook or Google traffic, and look at the email conversion rate. That's sort of a classic lean startup practice for testing the waters on your idea. So you can define, basically whatever the tools are that are appropriate for your MVP, and then they'll show up in this funding section. I talked about how we have completed tools where you upload evidence of your progress. So this is one of those functions to keep that transparency and that accountability, because your backers will get alerts as you post your logo file, or a scan of your receipt from purchasing your Facebook ads, or the link to your PowerPoint deck if you were building an investor pitch, and your backers, who can always be identified through the funders log, will get updated automatically. The rest of the profile is basically information about you, tools for people to be able to send you messages, and then, of course, your email updates. If you've ever used crowdfunding before, either as a backer or as a creator, you're familiar with these mechanics where you post updates and talk about your progress over the course of your campaign. Then finally, the last thing I'll show you is our admin panel. As an entrepreneur, this is where you'd go to write an email update to everyone who's subscribed. Of course, you can take a look at analytics on how your campaign is performing, where your backers are coming from. This is actually a piece that we're implementing in the next version. So the V1, which is right now what's live, won't have all of this analytics, but we'll have this up really soon. And then the other analytics sections are just, again, basically logs about campaign activity, individual funders, so you can communicate with them privately, once they've chosen to back your project. So, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, that's sort of the platform. So I'll stop there and just get back to, general questions.
Yep. So I believe Missouri has a magic rule of 50 before you started violating securities laws. One of the things that, these people, I know nothing about securities laws, except that a Springfield man went to jail not too long ago for violating that law, because he got more than 50 investors. What does this platform do or not do in that respect?
Yeah, well, I'm too old to go to jail, so we avoid it. The kind of crowdfunding you're alluding to is equity crowdfunding. So it would be more something like an angel list or a crowdfunder or micro ventures. Those are platforms where you actually get ownership, equity in the companies you're backing. The raises tend to be at much higher levels, on average at least $500,000 bucks, and the investors are supposed to be accredited, which is basically a high net worth individual. We avoid that whole mess because the SEC and all the title, whatever it is, I forget the Roman numeral, crowdfunding legislation is just a mess. It's a moving target. And what we're doing instead is focusing just on the low-level sort of donation-based, or what we call micro crowdfunding market, which is the same thing as a GoFundMe, or if, say, you had a PayPal donation button on your website and you were raising money from people for a cause. We're completely avoiding the equity side right now. Maybe when the shoe drops and it becomes clear kind of what the rules of engagement are, we might move into the equity. So your uncle could actually get a small slice of your company. But right now it's illegal. For most cases in this country, it's legal in some places like Australia, and we don't want anything to do with it. So we're just avoiding it and focusing on the first step. There's no actual cap as far as the amount, but sort of conceptually, yes. Like we're looking at average campaigns of $5,000 to $10,000, not $300,000 to $500,000, which would be the size of the kind of fundraising equity campaigns you're talking about. unless they, really want to back you, your mom may be paying your tuition to go to school and spending a lot more than that. Maybe she wants to put in $1,000 to let you try this startup idea.
Ashok, is there, unlike crowdfunding websites, Kickstarter, is there a return for your pledge, or is that subjective
Yeah.
to the campaign?
So the creator can, provide perks sort of offline. We're not going to get involved in that. Just like how the creator, if they want, one of the sort of unexpected benefits of crowdfunding is that you're engaging your community and sometimes creating a new community. So if I were doing a campaign on Launch Leader and I got 25 people to give me essentially $100 so I could test my concept, then my concept works. And what we are doing as a reward is creating an experience reward. So you're keeping them engaged. And if you look at a lot of crowdfunding backers, they don't actually use the stuff that they back. It's really that they want to be involved in that journey. I mean, we've done tons of research around this. The stuff usually doesn't matter for a large percentage of them. It's about them supporting the vision of the team that has the idea. But having said that, if 20 people back you at a small level and you want to go then raise a real professional, say $25,000 or $50,000 angel round, you would be wise to go back to those same 25 people who now have confidence that you're not just talking about an idea like most entrepreneurs. I've got an idea, but I don't do anything. That's right. I mean, all of us here, right? Every person we talk to, they've got 10 ideas. They'll never do any of them most of the time, right? So you've proven that you actually are going to, create a real presentation. You're going to make, kind of the hard choice of asking people to back you. Now maybe you create a term sheet and offline, we're not going to participate in that process, but then you can go and solicit them for your, say, friends and family angel round. And I think logically that would be a good way of approaching a platform like Launch Leader as an entrepreneur.
How exactly are the entrepreneurs selected? Unlike some of the other crowdfunding sources, to where you have to go through an application
Yeah.
process, so you don't get saturated with
Yeah.
unvaluable crowdsourcing. So what does that process look like on your guys' standpoint? And is there only a select few that actually get selected for that?
Yeah, so we have two versions of our platform. We have the white label, which is where we're working with universities, like say Rice University and their entrepreneurship center, and it's more about that community, them engaging their alumni and supporting student entrepreneurship. They'll have their own platform that will have their logo on it, and it's a white label of our tech. But our superset platform, the launchleader.com, right now it's VIP launchleader.com for the early adopters, it's open. The only limitation is our terms of service of the kind of projects that we won't accept. So it's things like porn and illegal activity and anything that's like animal abuse. So there are certain screens that we have. But basically we're letting the crowd kind of decide. The entrepreneur could be creating a flower shop, or they could be doing a mobile analytics app.
Do you think that'll saturate the market? People
Yeah.
wanting to go back to, see people wanting to raise money to feed their cat or something?
Yeah. So feeding your cat wouldn't be an option, because that's not a entrepreneurial pursuit. Unless maybe you were creating a device that would automatically feed not just your cat, but cats all over the world. If you did, I'd like to know, because I was out of my house for 5 days in California until yesterday, and feeding the cat. I mean, the neighbor hates me, but she's wonderful to help. So it would have to be an entrepreneurial idea. That's part of the terms of services. You're launching an idea. You can create a profile, let me just be clear, without having an idea. So let's say you're a mentor and you don't have an idea that you want to raise money for. The profile creation process is bifurcated between you and your idea. You start by doing you, and that creates your profile where people can, let's say, find you as a mentor, or you could contribute or connect with somebody as a domain expert. Let's say you're a designer. If you have an idea, then you move to a second page, and that's where you state what you're trying to do, and that's where the criteria would be, and what money and talent you need to fulfill that idea.
How about rewards? Can you talk about the rewards, like
Yeah.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo, you get a reward.
Yeah.
It's not, like a donation, basically. For what I do as a film,
Yeah.
it's basically a DVD of the finished product. So you give so much money. Or is that, you said something about the rewards, is that in there too?
Yeah. So we're not a rewards or pre-order platform like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. We're strictly donation-based. What I would advise is someone to use something like Launch Leader to prepare yourself, if you're a filmmaker, for a platform like Indiegogo that specializes in that. So in order for you to do a successful campaign on Indiegogo, one of the things proven that you need is a really good trailer. This is where you could raise money to build your trailer. So maybe that costs you $6,000 bucks. Then if you do that successfully, you've started to create enthusiasm around your project. You've got some money to build the tools that are more likely to make you succeed, unlike 90% of the people who go on Indiegogo today. They're not ready. So this is helping you get ready for, in a case like you as a filmmaker, a platform like Indiegogo that could help you get $500,000 bucks.
Then when you were talking about, he was talking about the equity. Have you heard anything about that? Because Congress has already passed it, where you could actually take it equity. I think it's either $1 million or actually first it was 2, then they might have dropped it to $1 million, where you can actually get non-invested. Have you heard anything more about that?
Yeah, I've heard projections that sometime early 2015, the legislation may pass that allows kind of everyday people to invest in equity crowdfunding platforms, but it hasn't happened yet. We're live now. If you're sure, you can build a platform. There are definitely equity crowdfunding platforms that are just waiting to press the on switch. But for us, we want to focus on kind of a space that we can tackle right now, and we may move into equity crowdfunding down the road. But for now, we're avoiding it altogether because it's just so sketchy. I mean, I was at a conference, SSTI, which is the Technology Incubator Association in Chicago a couple months ago, and they had the head of the Angel Capital Association. And they're trying to put the brakes on equity crowdfunding because then it obscures what an angel investor is. So we don't want to get in between those crazy fights. But what we can do right now is help entrepreneurs raise money from their friends and family. By far the biggest source of capital. It's about like 70–80% of startup funds come from your friends and family. Venture capitalists are like 1% of the entrepreneurial financing market. Angels are a little bit bigger than that. But most of the money for startups in America come from your friends and family. That's what we're focusing on, and just helping make that process easier, more professional, more structured, more reliable.
I assume the richer your profile and the richer the information about your idea, the better chances you're going to attract contributions. But it seems that would also attract trolls to steal your idea and beat you to the market. Where does that fall?
Yeah, that's a really great question that comes up a lot. Is what if somebody steals my idea? The truest response that we can give is like when we're doing a startup weekend, which I'm a mentor in, and like we do a business plan competition. It's a risk you take as an entrepreneur. It's a high risk, high reward kind of proposition. The reality is I don't know personally too many great entrepreneurs that have had their ideas stolen, the way Facebook or, there's scandals in Twitter and, Snapchat. Most people won't make the sacrifices to start a business, and you probably care about your business more than the next person. So there is always that, risk, just like on Kickstarter, that somebody could, see what you're doing and knock it off. But that's, kind of the trade-off that, you take as an entrepreneur. If we see that there's a lot of activity like that happening, we would certainly try and implement, more controls, say private profile where you could turn it on, off. Only people who you authorize would get access to it. So there are kind of control mechanisms like that we're preparing for. It's just they come at the expense of, getting discovered by, say, somebody that just wants to find a social entrepreneur that's, helping build wells in Southeast Asia. So you eliminate, sort of the power of the crowds by making it private. And we'll just basically respond to our users and, kind of how we, go forward. But we're starting off as open.
Looks like we're a little bit over time here, but before
Okay.
we wrap up, how can we as a community help you?
Please go to launchleader.com, sign up as an early adopter. Within a couple of days, you'll get an email inviting you to get onto our VIP beta website, and then we'd love to have you get started with a profile. And again, we'll waive the 5% commission fee. Stripe still takes their 3%, that's just pass through, but we'll waive our fee in exchange for the feedback that you give us, what you like and what you don't like about the platform. So again, I appreciate your time. I'll be around here if anybody has any other questions. Thanks again, and look forward to hearing Philip.
Good deal. Before we jump into our next presenter, we got a couple quick announcements. Startup Weekend is January 23rd. Chad Carlton is leading that up and can answer some questions for you. MATA is coming up. There's not a date on that. I don't see Sherry, but Sherry Coker and Dan Cobb run that event, which is here in this room, and I think they meet on the second or third Thursday. The real estate investor meeting, I know those guys are here. The 18th at Pasta Express on Republic, and that's at 5 or 5:30? 6 o'clock, and Sean and Chad are over here. Where's Chad, too? Chad's over there. And let's see, we are canceled the 24th before Christmas, December 31st, before New Year's, and then we will pick back up in January. We're going to have a party next week. We'll have some food and some sugary, delicious carbs to go with the coffee in the morning. And so we invite you all to come back. We'll have some presenter profiles and kind of just really recap the year as a whole since we launched out in February of this year. Quick shout out, a good friend of mine, Jay Handy's in town, first time here at A Million Cups. Thanks for visiting us and meet him afterwards. Yeah, it's a round of applause, right? Our next presenter is Philip Baird with Spirit Factory, and curious to hear more about his startup, and take it away. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Devin. Is this the mic on? You can never tell when you're the one talking. All right, well, thanks, guys. Good morning. My name is Philip Baird, and I am business development manager for a company called Stingray Worldwide. And I first of all want to start out by thanking 1 Million Cups for existing in Springfield, and thanking all of you guys for making the Springfield 1 Million Cups one of the largest, I think, 1 Million Cups in the nation. So my family and I just recently moved back down to Springfield about 8 months ago. And when you're making a move from Kansas City to Springfield like that, there are three real things that are heavy on your mind. One is the school district when you have 2 kids. Number 2 is church, and we found a decent one. We're still kind of looking for a better church. But number 3 is, okay, where's the closest group of local entrepreneurs? And I think I have found the best one here in Springfield, so I'm very thankful to have this here. As I mentioned, I'm with Stingray Worldwide, and I'm not really here to talk about Stingray Worldwide except for this. We do promotional products and custom apparel for companies across the country. So we are in Springfield now, but as I mentioned, I'm here to talk about a subsidiary of Stingray Worldwide called Spirit Factory. And Spirit Factory is a custom apparel and merchandise company focused on the education industry. And again, even beyond that, I want to introduce you guys to something really exciting that we've innovated called the Spirit Box, which is an automated retail program for primarily high schools right now. Quick background though, I am from Springfield originally, Pershing Elementary through Glendale High School, went to Missouri State, and with about 30 hours left to complete my degree, I was made aware of a startup company here in Springfield that had just received $1 million capital from a group in Kansas City. And I was offered an opportunity to jump on board, so I did with both feet. And that evolved into another startup, which was bought out by a company in Kansas City, the 3rd largest yearbook company in the U.S. That's what took my family and me up there. They publish yearbooks at over 5,000 schools across the country, including all 5 Springfield public schools. And we were approached by a company called Stingray, and they asked us, do you guys want to explore this idea of custom apparel, custom merchandise in the education industry, since you already have this large presence in that market? And so Wellsworth is the name of the yearbook company, put me on the project, and I literally started going out to local high schools in the Kansas City area, walking in the front office, asking who the buyers of apparel and merchandise were, how much were they buying, how'd they make their decisions. And where I thought I was going to be steered in the direction of sports teams and clubs and like that, I was actually steered more in the directions of these business classes within schools. So I don't know if you guys have seen this locally, and I've yet really to explore it here in Springfield, but in Kansas City and other areas across the country, these kind of really elaborate school stores have become kind of a norm in high schools. Kind of like your college bookstore has now come to the local high schools. And what's cool about this is that it is being managed and run by the students. So it's a real world hands-on opportunity for these students to run a retail operation. And you know, when I went to Glendale, I was very interested in business. There wasn't a ton of business and marketing classes, or at least if there was, it wasn't marketed very well to me, and that's a whole other issue in itself. But so these groups that are running these school stores, at least in the Kansas City area, as I'm talking to them, we were finding out they had a lot of challenges, like consistent across the board, same challenges. And I want you guys to put yourself in the shoes of a business teacher at a high school your responsibility is to run, at minimum, a break-even retail operation. Your employees are high school students who probably don't have any experience in retail. You have 3 hours a week of class time to manage them, and they're not getting paid. So that brings up a lot of challenges for these groups. And so number one, staffing. Number two, hours of operation. Some of these school stores are only open 15 minutes before school. So hours of operation was a huge pain. Location within the school. Some of these school stores are old janitor's closets down at the end of these haunted hallways that no one walks by. Money management. And then finally, one thing I found is every district I work with, they have a blanket restriction against groups within the school district creating their own credit card processing operations, because it's a liability nightmare for the district. If every little group and club has a Square or a PayPal here, so districts pretty much ban that, at least every district I've approached. And so we figured out a way to help out with that as well. So we basically went out and bought, well, first of all, we were at a business development meeting for the company I worked with. We were getting ready to exit this whole custom apparel strategy because it is very fragmented, very competitive. Within probably 15 square miles of us right now, I would say there's 10 or more companies that do promotional products, custom apparel, and things of that nature. From small mom and pops to large national companies, and not to mention the online competitors. So we were getting ready to exit, but during one brainstorm session, we couldn't help but get over this idea of these constant and consistent challenges that we were hearing. And so someone had an epiphany during one of these meetings and said, well, and I'm going to ask you guys, how many of you have been in an airport and seen a Best Buy vending machine where you can swipe a credit card and purchase an iPad or headphones right there from the vending machine without interacting with a person? Well, this was the conversation that came up in the meeting, and they said, Phil, do you think that one of your contacts might be willing to put a vending machine up in the school? And I said, well, I'll go ask. So the first two schools I asked, they were willing to do this. We went out and bought literally just 2 used vending machines out on the market. We found a way to stuff T-shirts and custom apparel iPhone cases in bags, and found out a way to jam them in these coils in these vending machines and place them in high traffic areas in 2 high schools, Blue Springs High School and Shawnee Mission East. It was received really well. Not only did we see a lot of sales taking place through the vending machines, but the students that were involved with managing this project and figuring this out, it was really exciting to see this experience that they were being exposed to. So we expanded it into 7 total schools the following year. We were working primarily with a group called DECA. Raise your hand. Have you guys ever heard of DECA? Okay. It's basically a business association. They're based out of Reston, Virginia. They're in about 5,000 high schools across the country. They provide real-world, hands-on, curriculum-driven business opportunities for students in the high school. And all 5 Springfield public schools have a DECA program, I recently found out, so that's exciting. So we introduced these schools to this concept called automated retail. Kind of a cool statistic that we found here is that 86% of consumers are more likely to do business with a company that offers a self-service way of purchasing. And so this was a concept that was very exciting. Currently in airports, malls, resorts, and we asked the question, why not schools? We were introduced to the right people at DECA National. And coincidentally, as we started researching DECA, we found out that the Kauffman Foundation is on the National Advisory Board for DECA. And Kauffman Foundation was right in our backyard in Kansas City. So we met with them a few times. Kauffman Foundation really encourages entrepreneurship, business development. They're the group that started 1 Million Cups. We met with them a couple times. They helped us fine-tune our offering, our program. We presented to DECA National. They were very excited. They were very supportive of this idea, introduced us to one of the most prominent districts in the D.C. area, and we went into 6 schools out in D.C. We kept it very focused to D.C. and Kansas City, and from there we basically put together a formal Spirit Box automated retail program. And I think one of the biggest things that we've done is we partnered with DECA to develop curriculum and a lesson plan that business groups can implement when they want to bring a Spirit Box on board. It's no longer just a vending machine and good luck. It's now here's some best practices and tips and tricks we've learned along the way. So this has really helped. Cutting edge technology, we've partnered with what we believe to be kind of the Mercedes of vending machine manufacturers. When you're in a high school, technology is important. Our vending machines accept credit cards as well as Apple Pay. There are other technologies in the vending machine that I couldn't even really have enough time to explain to you here, but awesome vending machines. They accept credit cards. We figured out a process that allows this group to be able to accept credit cards, which is about 60 to 70% of sales through a Spirit Box. And basically, we've figured out a process to manufacture a vending machine that's made to dispense this type of item, ship it to the school, train the school on site how to use the machine, custom graphics wrap it with the school colors, school mascot, so it's truly a spirit box, and then provide ongoing program support to these groups within the school. And so that's kind of what the Spirit Box automated retail program is. And to kind of let you guys know where we are, we're currently in Kansas City and Washington, D.C. We have 13 schools in Kansas City, 10 in D.C. We're looking at expanding into Dallas next year. We also want to go into St. Louis, and I want to be in Springfield Public Schools. It just makes sense to be in my own backyard. And so that's our goal for next year. Within the next 3 years, we want to be in over 200 schools. Again, we want to grow organically. We have a waiting list of 50 schools right now that have seen a Spirit Box and somehow found us, contacted me, and now they're on this list. But we want to be strategic about which markets we go into. And we're actually basing this a lot around where is there a strong DECA presence, because this is a very strong network that's allowing us to be strategic about how we grow. If you can imagine, again, the overhead and having a vending machine manufactured, shipped, and maintained and supported, we want to make sure they're kind of in clusters, if that makes sense, as opposed to one-offs. But our goal is 2017, 2018, we want to be in over 200 schools and achieving over $3 million in revenue at that point. But that's the Spirit Box automated retail program, and thank you guys for letting me present that to you today, and thank you.
Philip, you're talking to Springfield as a community right now, and I'm sure that there's people that are involved in the public school system here. Can we assist you in integrating into the Springfield Public Schools in the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you guys are involved in Springfield Public Schools at the administrative level, or if you're just a teacher, or you're just a parent that has students in the school, just ask the administration. Have you guys heard of Spirit Box? We just heard this presentation about a Spirit Box, and to have apparel available 24/7 before a basketball game or on the weekends when the school store isn't open would be really cool. It's also a cool experience for the students to be able to be a part of an automated retail operation, which a lot of national retailers are starting to go to. So it's a real world experience. So yeah, if you just ask about it, we are getting ready to, in January, announce the opportunities or the openings available in Springfield to those DECA advisors. So they will be made aware of it, and then we'll have those conversations with them kind of one-off at that point. But yeah, just ask about it, or tell somebody at Springfield Public Schools about it, that it exists, and that there's this cool concept that provides this cool experience for students.
Is there a fundraising portion? Does some revenue go to a PTA or a booster club?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because we played with a couple of different business models. The first thing we tried was a traditional vending machine model, right, where we own the machine, we own the merchandise within it, and then any sales go back to the school. Well, we found out that these DECA students wanted to get their hands in it. They wanted to get dirty. They wanted to figure this out. And so basically the business model that we've gone to market with the last 2 years is there is a program fee. It's an annual program fee which helps cover the depreciation expense of the box, the support, credit card transaction fees, that sort of thing. And the school commits to purchasing X amount with Spirit Factory and just custom apparel and custom merchandise throughout the course of the year. Other than that, and generally these are purchases these schools are making anyway, so that sum that they're committing to, they're spending anyway. They're just going to now spend that with Spirit Factory. Anything sold through the box, all of it's just an extension of their traditional school store, and all those proceeds and everything go back to that DECA or that business team or the school team. Does that answer your question?
2 questions. What products sell well? And then what's your cutoff size of school? What population do you need to be in?
Yeah, both great questions. And what's interesting is you've got your core products, right? That you've got your T-shirts, your long sleeve T-shirts, some hats, and just basic core products like that are kind of the consistent best sellers. Now, outside of that, it kind of depends on where you're at. And even 2 schools within the same district have completely different demographics, and different things sell within those schools. But we're seeing custom iPhone cases, custom designed earbuds, these like Nike Elite type of socks and school colors and school logo on these socks. I mean, you name it. USB, AC, power adapters, USB power banks, emergency battery for your cell phones and things like that. More mobile technologies coming into high schools. So charging cables in there for $5. If a student forgot their charging cable, not even branded, but they'll come to swipe their card and buy a $5 charging cable. And we're still figuring it out. Basic chapstick, branded chapstick. Not even school. So some of these necessities too, pens and pencils at $25, and those types of things. There's a list of probably 15 or 20 items that we kind of recommend out of the gate for schools to consider. School size. So we're in schools from anywhere from 700 to 2,500 students. And what we have found is it's not so much dependent on the school size, but instead of, it's dependent on the passion of the program that's running this. It's only as successful as the group that's out there marketing it, putting new product mix in it, letting the student body know what's in it and what it is. One of the big things is when you go to make a purchase from a vending machine, like let's say you're going to buy a bag of chips, what's going to happen 1 in 10 times? It gets stuck, and so that's a risk you're willing to take for $1.50. But when you're talking about maybe a $30 long sleeve, Nike t-shirt or Under Armour t-shirt, you're a little bit more, you're not as likely to make that risk or take that risk. Our vending machines have a technology in them called SureVend, which are sensors down at the bottom. So if product doesn't break the plane, it'll coil again until product does break the plane. If nothing breaks the plane, let's say someone selects an empty bin by accident, the transaction is canceled or the money is refunded. So a big challenge for these groups is to educate parents and students that technology is in this machine, to make them less hesitant to make that transaction through the machine. So again, size doesn't as much matter. One of our most successful schools has about 800 students. Another one of our most successful schools has 2,500. So it's really the group managing it, how much they own the program. It takes work. It's additional work for them.
Can you speak to,
Yeah, sorry.
you spoke about before that, they're operating in 15 minutes a day, struggling to, they just have to break even on it. Are you seeing a change in that, or do you have a way to track that?
You mean because of the Spirit Box?
Because of the Spirit Box, they're now able to make profit?
It's I would say most of the school stores or the groups that we go into are already profitable, just because they're the more innovative, forward-thinking school store teams, and we've been kind of introduced to these schools through DECA, hand-selected. So it's really kind of crazy. Some of these schools are doing over $60,000 a year in revenue through their school store. And if you can imagine, we're getting ready to go down into Dallas. Some of these high schools have football stadiums that are better than Missouri State's stadium. So, the spirit's there, and some of these schools are doing mass amounts of sales. I don't know that there's a success story yet of a school that's losing money and implemented a Spirit Box and is now making money. What I can tell you is that the average Spirit Box is doing about $7,000 a year in revenue, and about 60 or 70% of that is credit card, which is kind of, they attribute those sales to maybe sales they wouldn't have otherwise had because they can't accept credit cards otherwise. But what's really neat about these Spirit Boxes is they have telemetry technology in them, which means they speak through cell phone towers, and I can go log in right now and see what sales took place through these 23 Spirit Boxes yesterday, the day before, down to the day, down to the time, was it credit card or cash, and which bin did the sale take place through. And so what is exciting is when you come in on a Monday and you see there were $400 in sales at Heritage High School on a Sunday evening, and you email that advisor and say, what happened? He goes, I don't know, but I just pulled a ton of cash out of the vending machine. He goes down, talks to the front office, and there was a middle school event there that Sunday evening, and who's your biggest buyer of high school products? Middle schoolers. Well, those are sales that they can literally attribute to they wouldn't have otherwise had. But yeah, I don't know that I can really say, here's this amazing turnaround story. Really, it's an additional learning experience for the students. It allows them to capture sales they wouldn't normally have, and then expose these students to a technology they're going to run into in the real world if they're going to get into the world of retail.
So coming from a high school student, this is a great product because all of your points were totally correct. The staffing is completely high school students, and then it's cash only, and the times, the hours of operation, like for us at Glendale, it's only during lunch and right before school starts, and those are horrible hours because kids want to eat lunch and everything like that. So this is a great product. People can go to it anytime throughout the day, and they can buy whatever they want to, whether it's right before or after the basketball game or whatever. But I think one of the major things that a marketing or a business teacher would say is exactly what I have heard when I've asked about this. And they say, you know, it's all part of the experience, setting up a retail store and teaching kids how to sell things and setting up the product, how to display it and everything like that. It's more about the experience for the staff rather than, you know, making the money off of it. So how do you kind of respond to that?
No, I mean, we embrace that mindset wholeheartedly. I mean, it's, you know, again, I think there really is not a budget on the line items for these schools to go out and lose $10,000 in apparel sales. So at a minimum, they're just trying to break even. And as long as they're able to do that, which they are able to if they run it smartly, it's about the experience the students are getting. And that's why we decided to partner with DECA. That's why we have you know, paid to develop a curriculum and a lesson plan around the 5 Ps of marketing and how that pertains to automated retail. So this, and then what we're looking at doing is putting together a national competition for all Spirit Box schools to actually compete against each other at these DECA national conferences and statewide conferences. We do, that's basically what we're trying to do, is just enhance that existing learning experience. Also, we're in 2 schools that don't have traditional school stores. They don't have the space for it. They've never had one in place. And if you can imagine, if you don't have one in place, to then try to put one in place is expensive, and you got to find the space and this and that. Well, we're looking at trying to fill that niche for schools that don't have a traditional school store, but they're looking for a turnkey retail operation so they can expose their students to that experience. So we have 2 schools that are currently doing that this year, and you know, it's been just that. It's been a great learning experience for those students to be able to be a part of that without having a brick and mortar school store.
Question here. As far as, are you looking to open this up to independent contractors to sell this machine for you?
You know, that's one model that we're definitely considering. You know, is almost like a franchise type of model where we might have somebody. DECA has a huge presence out in the state of Washington, which is far from here. And there's probably a really credible custom apparel company out in that state that wants to get into the education industry. And so we're looking at maybe a franchise model where they could buy, you know, the rights to 30 boxes within a certain area to get them into those schools and guarantee that revenue from those schools and start to build a name for themselves within the education industry. I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, as far as having third parties being able to, you know, buy into this and grow this in their areas, or kind of grow in a franchise model, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, because I mean, I work directly with schools in that same aspect, and this would be a product line I'd be interested in. Second, who's stocking it? Are the DECAs, I mean, are they buying a group of materials and then stocking it in the DECA room and then restocking the machine? Who's stocking those machines?
Yeah, the students. Yeah, so in most cases, these existing school store teams have a groups of students that make up different areas. So the marketing team, the product and design team, you know, and finance team. And so now they have a Spirit Box team or an automated retail team. And it generally doesn't take more than, you know, I've got some schools that they've got a class of 20 students who all kind of run the Spirit Box. I work with other schools, they have 1 student, and that's the automated retail student. So how that school implements it and manages it is completely up to that school. There's no right or wrong way. And when they first implement, or actually inevitably at the beginning of every year when you have new students come in, I mean, they're stubbing toes, they're calling us, asking us questions. You know, we're trying to share best practices via our Facebook page. Where, yeah, how every school implements it's a little bit different, but they find a way to bring it in with their existing operations or their existing class.
So in regards from the business aspect of it, from the school's point of view, do they have, you're talking about how you have analytics and metrics that you can view as well, but is there a way for schools to see that either A, real time, or know what kind of product that they're pushing out more to where they can, you know, adjust for future growth and so forth? Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's really important too, because you know, while they can go down with the clipboard and take all this inventory, you know, once a week, that's not necessarily where they want to spend their time. So when I log in, and we've partnered, the company's called Streamware, who does all of our back-end reporting and presents it to me online. And what I do right now is I pull that to an Excel doc, I split it up by school, and I email it to them every Monday. We're working with them to develop a platform where each school can have a unique login so they can see the sales specific to their Spirit Box without seeing the rest of them, which will obviously take a lot of work off my plate and is going to be necessary as we grow. But yeah, they have access to all that same reporting.
Simple question. Say you're working with the business students within the school community, and do you have like a syllabus on on your best practices that is readily available and can contour the syllabus to fit the community that the boxes are going into?
Yeah, no, we don't currently have a syllabus. We have we have a curriculum, and we have lesson plans with quizzes, tests, and activities and things like that. So I guess in a sense, yeah. What's included in that is best practices. Hey, when you're doing this, consider this, and here's a story about a school that ran into this challenge. Make sure that you consider that when you're starting yours up. So I guess yes, we do. I don't know that we've called it a syllabus, but similar to what you're asking about. We don't necessarily have, and it's not necessarily tailored to certain markets yet, or certain demographics, or certain districts or school districts yet. Sure. Yeah, and we have ongoing, so we have account managers, we have designers, and so when they have a question, they call us. If we can't answer the question, we've got a very close relationship with the vending machine company and this network of technicians across the country. They can be on site within 3 to 4 days to help fix an issue with the Spirit Box, or to help out with best practices. Hey, this particular school is running into this issue. The technician will go out and help troubleshoot that and give them kind of training on how they can mitigate that moving forward.
Philip, in conclusion, what else can we do to get you into Springfield markets? Is it possible to get into some of the universities here? And what is it that we can help you out with?
Yeah, thank you, and I really appreciate that question. We have actually been approached by a couple of colleges, including the Hofstra School of Business out in New York. They saw this in a high school, found us. They want to implement this at the university level, and we do believe that there is going to be demand for that. Again, as you can imagine, the capital is required to have, say, 20 vending machines manufactured and delivered. We're going to be very strategic. The demand just within high schools and these business programs within high schools is there, and it's real, and we've got a good partnership at a national level to make that come to fruition. So that's what we're focused on right now. But we believe churches, we believe AAA ball teams, all kinds of groups would benefit from automated retail, whether it's with our help or not. We're going to start seeing this come up more and more. As far as with your guys' help, this is number one, is just coming and listening. When I worked for a company up in Kansas City, we had a whole department focused on innovation, strategy, and business development. So anytime I worked on a new project, I could schedule a meeting with these guys that have master's degree from Carnegie Mellon and all of these brilliant people, and sit down and share ideas with and get questions like I've been getting today. And ever since I've moved this down to Springfield by choice, this was one thing I'm very passionate about is Springfield. Like, over the last 8 years, Springfield has come a long way. I came down and visited a few weekends a year, but now that I've immersed myself back in this culture, I was skeptical, and now I'm extremely energized and motivated by being back in Springfield. And so this right here is number one. If any of you guys have expertise in anything I've talked about, or maybe not, and you're looking to mentor somebody, I raise my hand and volunteer. I love the idea of having mentors, especially local. If any of you guys that are going to Missouri State or anything, you're looking for a mentor and you kind of want to tag along and see the craziness that goes on with all of this, I will more than happy to open my doors to you guys as well. But this is number one. I think as far as getting into Springfield public schools, anytime you guys can talk to somebody about this at a Springfield public school, that's great. We fortunately have this wonderful partnership with DEC at the national level, and they're going to help us get right in front of those people that we need to at that decision-making level within those schools. But again, just support entrepreneurship. Just support startups, support business development, share your ideas. I come probably every other week on Wednesdays just to hear ideas and get re-energized, and this is fun and exciting for me. So
That's great. Thank you, Phil.
yeah, thanks, guys.
Guys, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Again, we're off the 24th and the 31st, but next week we're going to have a Christmas party. I might even just buy you guys some donuts, so feel free to join us on the 17th. One more round of applause for our entrepreneurs coming all the way from Oklahoma. Thank you guys so much. This has been a great year. We're so happy that we've been able to have 2 startups every single week all the way up until now, and we owe that to you guys as a community. But again, if you know an entrepreneur or a startup that would benefit from presenting in this platform, please tell us to come see us or the organizers, or go to the website and present, and we'll see you guys next week.